2.2 section, piecewise functions, third video that I've made on it, so part 3. Okay. We have 3 functions here, and we're going to graph them on the same graph. So the first one is y equals -1 over 1x minus 2, but we only want to see the part of that line that's less than -1. The second one is a root function, so the square root of x plus 1, and we want to see that function in between -1 and 3 on the domain. And then the third one is quadratic, so it's got a vertex of 4, 0, and we only want to see the part of that that's greater than 3. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and let's graph that first one. First one is equivalent to y equals -1 over 1x minus 2, anything that's less than -1. But you know, I still have to put in my function. So it's a falling line, falls from left to right. So down 1 over 1, and then I can go up 1 over 1. And there's my -1, anything that's less than -1. So I got to keep going on here. Think about this. So I used yellow for that. I'll go back to yellow. So here's -1 right here. So anything that's less than -1 is going to be going to the left. So I want to show this part of the line. Here's my -1. Going to the left. So I'm going to start right here. And boom. A couple things I need to do just to be really accurate. Oh, let's see if I can get a really skinny little eraser here. This -1 is non-inclusive. So how do I know that? Because there's no line underneath the inequality. So right here at x at -1, I'm going to do an exaggerated open circle for you. Okay, that one's done. Okay, so my root function, it's going to be the square root y equals square root x plus 1. So for instance, remember how to graph a root function. When the square root, here I'll do a little table here, and we're just going to do that 1 at the end. So here are my x values. So let's say square root is 0, y value is 0. Square root's 1, y value is 1. Square root's 4, y value is 2. Square root is 9, y value is 3. All right, but this time, instead of starting at 0, 0, I'm going to start at 1. So 1 on the y-axis. So I'm going to go up 1 here. And on my table, I could just write it as y plus 1. So I'm going to add 1 here. When x is 1, then y is going to be 2. And when x is 4, I'm going to add 1 here. Y is going to be 3. I think I can fit one more in there. Maybe. When x is 9, y is going to be 3 plus 1 is 4. So I'm going to just sort of squeeze 9 in right here. That'd be about right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives me that, I always think of it as the Nike swoosh or a perfect eyebrow. So here, I'm going to just draw that in for you, but then I'm going to erase it because we only want to see a portion of it. Boom. And now let's just look at the portion we want to see. We want to see the portion that is between -1 and 3 on the domain. So here's 3 right here. So right there gets us to 3, and of course you can't have a negative square root. That's not a real number. So all we need to do to finish this part of the graph is erase this, and let's see, we have equalities underneath our inequality, so this should be closed. I got to get a little bit bigger here. Right there. And that gives us the curve right there. Okay, that looks good. And finally, we're going to have 3 partial functions here. Finally, we're going to graph that quadratic. So on part 2 of a quadratic, I reviewed the vertex form of a quad, so I'm not going to review it here again. I'm just going to get the vertex. So if y is equal to x minus 4 squared, and I only want to see the part of this graph that's greater than 3, first I've just got to find my vertex. My vertex is 4, 0. Right here, and then I'm going to go up 1 over 1 for a quadratic, up 1, 2, 3 for a quadratic, and then I do the same thing on the other side. However, that's as far as I need to go, right? Because here is 3 on the domain, and so I just want to see the part of the curve that's greater than 3. So let me do just a tiny bit of erasing here. By the way, when I do this in pencil, I do it the same way. I tend to erase what I need to. I just make the graph that I need and then I erase. So here's 3, and that's non-inclusive. That's 1, 2, 3 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. All right, now I'm just going to graph my quadratic curve. And that's it. We got 3 piecewise functions on one little graph. All right, I hope this helps.